Hey there guys, Phoenix Aurelius here. Thank you for joining us for this laboratory report for December 2022 for the Phoenix Aurelius Research Academy. December was a big month. We did take about the last week off, but there was a lot to do in order for us to be able to do that. First, we made our very last batch of liposomal vitamin C, at least for the foreseeable future. There may be batches that we make every once in a while as we can get ingredients in the future, but it's certainly not going to be a staple. It's going to be something that we don't even mention that we're about to release, and it's going to be a first come, first serve if we do decide to make it or if ingredients become available again. And again, our decision to not make that anymore was largely based on the difficulty of sourcing ingredients as well as the amount of time that we were spending in the laboratory producing that instead of being able to get to other things. And since we stopped and cut down our production massively, we have had enormous amounts of time to work on laboratory projects, and we have a lot of them going right now, which we'll talk about in a minute. We've added several herbs to the herbal apothecary, which will likely be extracted during January of 2023. We have Devil's Club. When I lived in Portland, I used to harvest my own Devil's Club. Since we don't live there anymore, we were able to source a really good source from far northwestern Idaho. It's a spring harvest Devil's Club from the root and the inner root bark, as well as the inner bark of some of the aerial parts. We also have poplar buds and Damascus rose that came in. We blended up a bunch of mumio for various clients, as well as replenishing our own supplies here for the Phoenix Aurelius Research Academy. There was a lot of mumio that people have been going through lately. It's just kind of interesting to see from our perspective spikes in certain orders and things that, spikes and lulls in the orders of certain things from a customer perspective. I personally spent a tremendous amount of time on the calendar. There was a whole lot of back and forth. There were a couple of edits. Some of the edits actually messed up some of the templates a couple of times, so digital proof, reading, rereading, re-editing, so on and so forth, and then also hard proof editing. For those of you who purchased the 2023 astronomical calendar in hard copy, well, and even in digital copy, have probably noticed that there have been multiple different iterations that were released and then re-released, and most recently, as of just a few days ago, re-released. Because there were a couple of small errors that were inside of there, but the printer actually ended up sending us the wrong hard copy proof twice, and so we are just waiting. We actually, as of today, we got the final hard copy proofs. They look absolutely fantastic, and they are now going off to the printer. So that's really good. We're hoping that they will be here by January 10th or right thereabouts, and then we will start shipping them immediately. We already have all the shippers and everything ready to go, and they're pretty easy to ship for us, so we can get hundreds of them out in a day or two. We also filtered more than 5 gallons of spagyric. Spagyric was a really hot thing. Part of that was that we threw a 40% off flash sale for Yule and just for the holidays in general. And a lot of you were really hip on spagyric, and so we filtered a ton of that. That's really good to see how well that is being received and used. As many of you know, if I had to get rid of absolutely everything else in my apothecary except for one thing, it would be that. I would save that product because it does more for just general wellness than most people would ever know or realize. So I'm really glad to see that it's as popular as it is. I also had to produce more heavy metal detox RX. This last batch basically made us run out of chlorella and fresh cilantro. So here in January 2023, I'll be making more of those. As it currently stands, we do have a little bit more heavy metal detox RX. That one is also probably one of our hottest sellers at the present moment. And for good reason too. Even I myself am going to be taking a lot of this as I'm finding that I have another recurring issue of an MTHFR mutation. I've addressed that several times, but living in Utah, we have a tremendously toxic environment as a result of the Great Salt Lake receding, and tons of heavy metals are in our air. So I anticipate that that's probably what is causing the MTHFR gene mutations to continue to go back, because I'll change the allele expression and everything, and still we'll get mutations and polymorphisms that will start to happen again, which further lends credence to the concept that the terrain is what creates our genes. And it's been said for a long time, you can't change your genes, you're just born with them, you can't change them. That's absolute crap. I have seen and have clinical studies here at our research academy of no less than about 15 different clients, including myself, where we can clearly see changes not only in the lack of symptoms and the conditions that a person will initially come to us with, but also in the IDF readings. And we've recently started using Ulta lab tests as well to hopefully in the future start corroborating this with other scientific blood work, urinalysis, and different other types of medical testing as well. So we'll be able to cross-compare IDF as well as medical tests and be able to see befores and afters with some of our clients, starting with me, in fact. So that's cool. December was just as prolific as November was in terms of starting new projects. We tinctured 47 new herbs. 17 of those were leaf plants. Many of you will be very happy to hear that Chaparral and Mistletoe are both on that list, as is Indian white sandalwood, true Indian white sandalwood, one of the greatest Meadowsweet of all of the Ayurvedic tradition, and even in Siddhi medicine, and so on and so forth. We also have some other rare herbs like purple pitcher plant, and we have about 3 or 4 different types of marine phytoplankton as well, including one that is really high in a C15 style supplement. So we are very, very excited about those. We also got some really great quality organic Jatamansi root and started that. And then we tinctured 29 new resins, including 6 different types of frankincense, like Boswellia dalzieli, Boswellia sacra, Boswellia occulta, Boswellia, I forget some of the other names of them off the top of my head, but they are really, really exceptional. Oh yeah, Boswellia rive is one of them. Really exceptional varieties. And we'll be split testing them over here to see which ones have the best anti-inflammatory effects, which ones have the best Meadowsweet or basically neurologically boosting effects, which ones are able to cut down pain for migraines, headaches, etc., things like that. I also was able to source 2 different types of Boswellia sacra from the same harvest, or same season, same tree. One of those is Omani green frankincense, and the quality of the green frankincense that we have for years is outstanding. So any of you who have purchased our frankincense, that's known as royal frankincense, it's a more common name, over the past couple of years, you're familiar with that. And we personally feel in all of our split tests, especially with incenses, that that one stands head and shoulders above the rest in being able to create the psychoactive properties that you hear of when you hear about psychoactive frankincense. We are very, very passionate about that. So we've been using green for a long time. I was also able to source enough of the red frankincense that we have a split test of both of those. We have some of just red frankincense, we have some of just green frankincense, and then I need to blend up a batch of Gifts of the Magi, which is frankincense, myrrh, and the alchemical oil of gold. So what I did for this, because it's traditionally a very Christmas time type of thing, the mythos of the Gifts of the Magi ties in with the birth of Jesus and so on and so forth. So what I did was I actually combined red and green, and they're both Boswellia sacra. They're both from the same trees in Oman. That's just a different, when the trees start oozing, they first ooze blue, and that's usually referred to as blue sultan or sultan blue frankincense, and it's reserved just for the Sultan of Oman. If you have any, it's been smuggled out of the country, and people have risked their lives to be able to do that, because 100% of that goes to the Sultan. Most people will never actually see that in their lives, including myself, with the exception of a little bit of blue that I received from a very contraband source several years ago. Sorry, Sultan. And Then you get green after that, and then oftentimes you'll get like yellow and then red. And the yellow is the more common, that's the more prolific. The green is a lot more expensive because it's more rare. And red is also very rare, and it happens later in the season. So we were able to use the really rare green stuff and the really rare red stuff and put those together to constitute the frankincense for our upcoming blend of Gifts of the Magi. All of these things are being tinctured at the present moment, so you won't see them hit the shelves probably for a couple of months yet, but they are being worked on and they're on their way. We also have two different types of myrrh. We have Yemeni myrrh, which is absolutely outstanding, very delicious, fragrant, has all of the properties that you think of when you think of a good myrrh, very cooling. We also have, it's called Suhul myrrh, S-U-H-U-L, and that is a fantastically fresh myrrh. It's the freshest myrrh that I have ever seen. We got these things from Apothecary's Garden, Dan Riegler. He's an absolutely amazing and very, very, how shall we say, ethical resource for many of these resins. Most of these resins we actually ended up sourcing through him, as we do. And, you know, they don't come cheap. They are very, very expensive. But again, because of the way that we've been able to price our things, you get access to these things at the exact same cost as you would get access to, say, you know, St. John's wort or rosemary or other things that are easier to grow and, you know, significantly cheaper to source. So it's amazing. When these things come out, if you don't buy them, you're really, really missing out. You will never find things like this, medicines of this caliber, of this quality, at this price point anywhere, because people just can't source it for that. So that's really cool. Yeah, I touched upon it earlier, but we ran a 40% off flash sale. Thank you guys, every single person who ordered. It kept our team of Nori and Owen completely busy for like a week straight right before the holidays began. And so that was crazy. They were working full time, just filling packages for like a week straight. And again, we would like to thank you for all of your support. It was a wonderful way for us to be able to finish out the year and bring in a little bit of extra income, because we like to take the last week to 10 days of December off for ourselves and to be able to spend time with our families and stuff like that. In December, we also purchased a pocket spectrometer. It's called the Magic Pencil. It was a Kickstarter program. They just barely shipped. We got it early in January, so we have it in hand as of the time I'm making this video. And we've played with it. It is extremely limited in the things that are pre-programmed, but we did buy the developer kit. So now what we're going to be doing during 2023, as time allows, is being able to import spectroscopic and spectrometric data for multiple different phytochemicals that show up in various projects that we work on. And we will be performing multiple different types of extractions and being able to utilize our spectrometer to be able to identify what concentrations show up in which different types of extracts of some of these, you know, more active phytochemicals. And you know, even though it's a limited scope of research, this is where research starts, and especially being able to, for a laboratory of our scale, being able to have access to spectrometry is really quite amazing, and being able to have something that we can utilize in the lab for a multitude of different purposes is really, really cool to us. But at the present moment, our work with it is pretty much limited to testing the freshness of eggs, the fat content of milk, the amount of freshness or how many days old a tomato is, you know, very simple things like that. But the fact that this thing literally is about this big and about the thickness of my thumb and is able to fit in my pocket, and I can take it around anywhere and use my phone to be able to analyze things, including the chlorophyll content of plants. So I can take it out in the field with me, and plants that I want to harvest, I can actually take the live plant and check its chlorophyll content and things like that to see how vital it is. It's just amazing what we can do, and I can see this within 10 to 15 years that the technology for this is going to be so readily available. We can put it in our phones and other things like this, and you know, we're kind of moving towards a Star Trek future with devices like that. So as much as I don't want to be hovering out in space and would be rather living sustainably here on the Earth, I do think that tools and ingenuity like this can be used ethically and in a very good and sustainable way if we focus on how to be able to utilize the resources and move away from the types of electricity and energy usage that we have at present, because they're very ridiculous. We're still primarily using combustion, very primitive. Let's see, I also performed a tremendous amount of medical research on, and IDF data, concerning pernicious anemia. This is something that I've revisited dozens of times over the last couple of years. Many of you don't know, but I have suffered with this for at least 5 years. Sometimes it will take me down for weeks at a time, actually. And doctors have not been any help up until the present moment. Because my B12 levels will fluctuate so greatly. Part of that is because of the herbs that I use and supplements I'm able to use will bypass the B12 deficiencies, but I've been having some problems with intrinsic factor. My life has been threatened by this condition both last year and this year, and the year before too, in a very, very, very significant degree. And it's put me down very heavily to the point where I thought that I was going to kick the bucket several times. So I've been able to perform a tremendous amount of research on this and utilize various supplementation that we have, of course, our own spagyrics, and some vitamin therapies and a few other things to be able to keep myself alive and ticking. And as I talk to you today, I am only about 3 days away from having a very life-threatening situation having happened. And so the turnaround time sometimes with these things can go pretty quick as long as I find out what's going on. But yeah, that's an enormous amount of research has gone into this, and being able to deal with the multitudinous symptoms and complications, and also trying to get to the root cause of things, like what causes MTHFR mutations to happen, and so on and so forth. We're getting closer to that. There's a CBS mutation, there's MTHFR mutations, there's lots of different genes, the GIF mutation, gastric intrinsic factor. There's so many different types of things. We're talking about looking into tapeworm issues and H. pylori and SIBO and lots of other different types of quote-unquote bacterial infections and parasitic infections, and trying to find what the terrain is and what the root cause behind those things are, and do the genes actually change as a result of the infections, or do the infections happen as a result of certain deficiencies or excesses, and how do we identify those? I've just done so much. I could easily teach a master class on pernicious anemia these days, and I'm one of the very few people who is still never had a vitamin B12 shot to help save my life, that has very, very minimal, if any, nerve damage, and continues to be able to research alternative ways of healing this just with diet, exercise, supplementation, food, and IDF broadcasts. So it's been very rewarding, but extremely challenging and an extremely harrowing experience for me. And then, yeah, we ended by winding down towards the end of the month. Noriana and I and my daughter, we celebrate Yule as a holiday, which happens on the winter solstice and continues through January 6th. And so we pretty much take it very light over here. We've also had some of our employees celebrate Hanukkah and Christmas, and we even had our own unique family holiday as well. And so it was a wonderful holiday season, aside from the severe health challenges that I underwent, and we hope that it was for you. We hope that you had a very wonderful beginning to 2023, and we wish you the very best. Blessings of happiness and health always. Thank you so much, as always, for all of your support of all of our research here at the Phoenix Aurelius Research Academy. We literally just couldn't be doing this work without you, and it's so fulfilling to all of us. So from us to you, thank you so very much. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, support@phoenixaurelius.org. Thank you.